afternoon. We are having some problems in bringing Christian Schmidt from PDIE into the program. In the meantime, may I request, starting with you, Susanne, if you would give us a brief introduction about yourself, and then we will then move on to Barbara.
Yeah, we'll do so, absolutely. So, hi everyone, I'm Susanne. I'm the founder and the CEO of the Future's Fungi Award. It's a global award honoring the most pioneering startups and science entrepreneurs that are cooperating with fungi to solve some of our largest environmental challenges. And we will talk more about fungi as a nature-based innovation in the same way that Barbara is also focused on nature-based innovations. But I can also say that, and now we have Christian here, so we'll leave it over to him.
Christian, can you hear us already?
Yes, I can hear you. Just
Okay,
a moment.
good. Okay, good.
Yeah, my video.
Oh, now we can see you. Perfect. Okay. So Susan already started introducing herself. I haven't done so yet. So why don't you start, Christian?
Great. Yeah, I'm happy to be here finally after trying many times to log in. I'm Christian Schmitz. I'm the founder of PDIE Group. PDIE stands for Purpose-Driven Innovation Ecosystem. Today we come here together with Susanne Gløersen and Barbara Dubach. Both of them are working in nature-based, nature-positive solutions. And in New York in September at the Climate Week, PDIE Group has kicked off GRIA, the Global Regenerative Innovation Alliance. And this is building a movement now. And the next step for this movement, or one of the next steps, will also be in Davos at the World Economic Forum, where we will again be together with Susanne and also Barbara and some other people at the Climate Hub in Davos in order to have an even more momentum in the forming of this alliance, which should bring us forward to regenerative, resilient, and nature-positive solutions. So I would like to pass the baton to Barbara first. Innovate for Nature. Innovate for Nature is focusing on nature-based solutions and is looking into different areas to advance this kind of regenerative agenda, which we so desperately need in order to really replenish and go away from the extractive economies and create something which lasts for the future. Barbara, maybe you can just introduce Innovate.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Christian. And good to be here together tonight with you and also Susanne for you morning. So Innovate for Nature is a foundation and it's an accelerator for nature positive solutions. So we call them clearly nature positive. And our objective is that by 2030, we want to accelerate at least 100 or more of these nature positive solutions. And we want to do this also in collaboration with companies, but also with foundations or with investors. So we have kind of three pillars, which include portfolio building. So we have done 2 call for applications since our existence, and we have had over 800 solutions that applied for the I4N award. And we then really want to connect them with the different actors to make supply chains much more resilient, but also to make them investable also for investors. And our third pillar is also thought leadership to highlight also what works, what doesn't work, so that others can learn from it and also apply these types of solutions. And I will make some examples or share some examples of solutions that we have in our portfolio. But I think as a starting point, I think this is what we're focusing on. And maybe just to highlight as well, our focus areas are a little bit broader probably than also the future is fungi, but I mean, might be also overlapping because we also have some fungi solutions that always apply. But it's sustainable management of ecosystem. It's also nature as infrastructure and planet-compatible cities, regenerative food system, and also circular nature-positive solutions. So this maybe as an introduction.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us. Susanne, you are the founder of Future is Fungi Award, and fungi or fungal innovation plays also a vital role in the whole regenerative ecosystem and nature-based solutions. Maybe you can, you're from Norway, by the way, so, and Barbara is in Switzerland, and I'm in Tokyo, Japan. I'm not Japanese, but yeah, so Susanne from Norway, founder of Futures Fungi Award. With PDIE Group, we have accompanied the journey for the last, I don't know, maybe almost 2 years. And it was always fascinating to see how Susanne is really working on making fungi something very prominent in the whole regenerative space. So maybe you can just highlight a little bit more about Futures Fungi Award, and also you might mention some outstanding examples of innovations which have been crossing your path.
Tack, Christian. Good to be here with you both. So first I have to say, when I say fungi, many people think about, their pizza or mold on the wall. But I discovered that we can solve so many environmental challenges with fungi as a new frontier in sustainability and biotechnology, which is basically leveraging nature itself for the solutions we need. So the Futures Fungi Award is a global nonprofit engine and a catalyst for very novel startups and science entrepreneurs that are collaborating with fungi to solve some of our largest environmental challenges. We see we can address climate change, nation biodiversity loss, moving from a linear petri-based system to a bio-based circular one. And we see applications all from building materials to cleaning soil to eating plastics and making new materials to batteries. So we will come more back to that. But the Futures Fungi, again, is a global engine. We have a non-profit arm, and we also have the investment arm, because we need different levers. We need, awareness raising about fungi. We need collaboration. So like Barbara, we partner with corporates who can do offtake of these innovations. We have L'Oréal as a partner, Novo Nordisk, BASF, and then we collaborate a lot with science. We have Stanford and MIT in the jury. And then we need to bring capital into these innovations, these super novel innovations. So we are awarding them with an investment where we have families and private investors behind it, and then we have an investment vehicle so we can catalyze these innovations. And again, the overall mission is really to transition to a nature-based system, and fungi is incredibly untapped in that space. If you want, Christian, I can mention briefly some of the winners from the first award so that people understand what this might be about, or we can take it later in the call. What do you think?
Maybe I can come to the essential question, basically, to let us think a little bit about what is the meaning of the terminology regeneration. And that's also something which I have been thinking a lot, and we had the Paris Agreement 2015, and the Sustainable Development Goals were coming from there, from 2015. Of course, also based on much earlier work. It started as early as 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, actually. But now we have sustainability, and sustaining means that we basically keep the status quo. And if we only do that, and we haven't done it even enough, we will not succeed. So regenerate, I mean, I had Latin in school. It comes from regenerare, and it means creating a new or producing something new. And regenerate means more than just sustaining. So let's have a look into the areas where regeneration should play a vital role. What do you, for example, Barbara, identify as some of the crucial areas? And maybe you can also mention some examples from the work of the last few years, and then I come back to Susanne, and you can also mention some examples, basically.
Sure, thank you, Christian. And I think also our definition, or not just our definition, but also the definition of nature positive initiative, goes exactly in the same direction, like a regenerative economy, right? Where we say we have to hold the decline, for example, in biodiversity, and really actively restore and enhance ecosystem and biological diversity. And for us, it's really crucial that we also say, let's not just do it focusing on nature or climate, but also ensure that it is a just transition that we can do. And I think what we have identified is really kind of the 4 areas where we have the biggest leverage. I think nature is the biggest ally also of climate, so we can do quite a lot of nature-based solutions, which are then really also how can we restore nature and that at the same time maybe capture or reduce CO2 emissions. So that's why we have one of our focus areas, which is sustainable management of ecosystem. And there, I think we have a great winner from last year, which is Savimbo, which is a startup in Colombia, and they really work in collaboration with indigenous communities, or it is even an organization owned by indigenous communities. And what they try to do is really making sure that the indigenous communities get paid via biodiversity credits, so that they can really regenerate and maintain the tropical or the rainforest. And but they also try to maintain indigenous wisdom, but also combine it with new digital tools. So ensuring that they have access to, on one side, the possibilities also to measure the biodiversity in the forests where they are. So this is just one example. And they are now really rolling out their system in many other countries. And I think it's quite successful. They have now also a partnership with a company, and several companies who said, yes, let's do this together, so that the indigenous communities who are really also managing the biggest part of our rainforests, that they get paid for that. The other topic, which is also of importance to the initiative GRIA, and also Susanne, you mentioned it, is clearly nature as infrastructure and planet compatible cities. So what kind of solutions can we have there? What is possible? Another example here is reefs. That's also a winner from last year. They print 3D new coral reefs, and then they can put it into the ocean in collaboration also with local communities. So really to restore coral reefs, and at the same time also with that restoration, reduce also the risks of flooding if they also do it in conjunction, for example, with mangroves restoration. And then clearly the whole topic of regenerative food systems is a huge topic, and there are lots of interesting innovation. One of our finalists from this year is also Courageous Land, where they really try to scale agroforestry in several countries. And then I think the last but not least, and I think that's also very linked also with fungi and is circular nature positive solutions, where you can also use, for example, and I know we have had the same solution that have applied for both awards, where you can make isolation materials, for example, based on fungi, but also you can use, for example, invasive species like the quagga mussels and make limestone out of it. So you can reduce CO2 emissions. And I think for me, having worked in sustainability for over 25 years, for me, all these solutions are kind of the hope that I still have for our future in terms of, there are so many innovations that can really help us to transition towards a regenerative economy.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, and especially Savimbo Drea Burbank. I have been following her for quite a while,
Absolutely.
and we also spent quite some time together in New York at the Climate Week, and
Yeah.
it's interesting how she is getting into all these different kinds of meetings, and there's a big attention now to
Absolutely.
also see natural assets or natural capital as one of the sources how to leverage nature as a new kind of financial asset, basically. We will come to this maybe later. Also, we nominated Savimbo for the Earthshot Prize, and yeah, they have been getting into the last round, but so far they haven't been a finalist. But what not is can maybe be in the future. And what I'm also finding very interesting is that many people in the climate space and many people in general talk a lot about uh, climate, and they talk very much in general, but what is missing always is that people have actually concrete solutions. So they talk about things, but they don't have an in-depth knowledge what is actually possible. And also at these large conferences like COP, which is going on in Brazil, there are so many people who are on the political level and on the level of finance. And these people, if they knew what kind of tremendous opportunities we would have in innovation, and if they would actually know that if we leverage this kind of innovations, we could really solve the problems, then the discussion would be on a different level. And Susanne, you work really on this very kind of niche and frontier technology side. And you also have a lot of very interesting examples, and maybe you can mention a few areas. So, what kind of different types of solutions are there, and in which areas can they be applied? And maybe you can mention some, maybe 2, 3 examples. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll come back to comment to innovating with nature and for nature. So I'll come back to reference to what Barbara also said earlier. So for me, I mean, regeneration, for me, right, it's or what it is, taking something less good into something better, something more prosperous, improving the state of the nation. Fungi is, for me, the best example of regeneration we have. Fungi converts, waste and what is not working anymore, dead material into new life, new nutrients, something upcycling. So it's transforming. It's a transformer of waste to value, right? In nature, there is no waste. thanks to fungi. They are the decomposer and cleaner. So that's very good to have with us when we talk about regeneration. And some of the examples from the board, again, it's so incredible to see that this is a full cycle. One of the science winner, he does something called electromicrobial CO2 fixation, which sounds very science fiction. I guess many people don't know what that is. But with electricity, he takes CO2 out of the air and converts it into an acid that the fungi can eat. So taking CO2 out of the air, the fungi eats it, and then it can make jet fuel and feed and materials. So taking something we don't want, CO2, and making materials. So really regenerative. Other examples are, again, since fungi loves to eat waste, and we humans are so good at producing waste, eating textile waste and converting it into more bio-based ingredients for cosmetics, replacing petrochemical ingredients. So that's also taking something we don't want, waste, and upcycling to value, to new materials. And also, I love micro-remediation. That's one of my favorite themes, where, we talk about climate, but the soil is so degraded. Our water streams are degraded. There's so much PFAS and chemicals. Fungi they're our workers. They clean up, they remove toxins in the soil. So fungi in the soil, and you can use it deliberately to regenerate the soil. Regenerate soil and water. So we had one of the startups all the examples I mentioned were winners from the first award. So I think we also have, like Barbara said, and the comment to Barbara and their great work is, this really shows us there's so much innovation in nature and that we can do with nature. It's a sandbox for us to collaborate with the natural world, right? And with the example you mentioned, Barbara, with was it the shell or the fish that is, invasive, and then making something. So inviting to innovating. And I love the name of Innovate for Nature, and with nature.
Great. Yeah, we can see the passion actually, and when you say they, and you describe what the fungi are doing, it looks even like they are living organisms, of course, and they they might be even people in your mind. So they are good people, and they help
Yeah.
us.
And I want to say one thing, because I think the language we use is so important. So that's why I say I'm not saying startups leveraging fungi. I say collaborating with fungi or co-creating with fungi. Because some startups say, oh, we're exploiting the fungal kingdom for this new bioactive compounds. And that is, exploitative language. I think it's so important that, the language we use when we talk about these nature solutions and how we make them.
Great. Yeah, language is really important. So GRIA, the Global Regenerative Innovation Alliance, intends to basically work with a network of cities and the surrounding bioregions, and then activating these cities and see, because the cities, of course, are the main kind of weight on our planetary boundaries. This is where most of the humans are living, and this is where more humans will be living. The projections are that 70% of the world population would be living in metropolitan areas by 2045, basically. And so if we don't regenerate cities, and if we don't see what we can do in cities and how to apply regenerative innovation in the city ecosystems, yeah, we might really run into bigger problems. And that's why since 2020 or 2021, actually, we had this Sustainable City Summit here in Japan. We did it 3 times. It was an international event. We will do it again next year. Susanne had been a speaker when we had the event in Okinawa, actually, at the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology. And so I want to highlight a little bit in the context of cities, what how we can basically activate cities and the innovation ecosystems, and how can we create this kind of movement from like bottom up, so that the local areas, the cities, which are much easier to control than, for example, a whole national regime, that in these local bioregional areas, how can we infuse it with enthusiasm for these regenerative solutions, and how can we activate the ecosystem? Susanne has mentioned already, she's working with some of the leading universities as well, and Barbara is also, I think, working with some cities. And yeah, maybe we can go back to Barbara, and you are in Zurich in Switzerland, and but your initiative is of course also globally. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the context with cities, and how we can activate these innovation ecosystems in cities, and how we can also yeah, communicate about the possibilities of regenerative futures.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Christian, for that. I mean, I think the city of Zurich, where I live, is a good example. So, I mean, they have said, for example, it's not necessarily a nature-based or nature-positive solutions, but they have said they only want to construct with recycled concrete. So there is a lot of innovation also in the building materials industry, where I worked quite a long time as well prior to initiating also Innovate for Nature. And I think, yes, one thing is trying to reduce also the waste. Susanne, you were talking about that as well, right? Fungi are good in kind of reducing waste, but I think we can specifically in the area of building materials, we can reuse quite a lot, be it recycling concrete or really also recycling isolation materials and so forth. But I think cities have a big role to play, because I think they can also be an important player in terms of what are they procuring, and they can set, they are, in my view, a big leverage. The city of Zurich, as another example, they also do kind of innovation, or they give out money also to startups, really to enhance and encourage this ecosystem. And I think this is a good example, and we just need to showcase how can this be done more. I also know that a bigger insurance company is now looking into also how can we make really cities, urban cities mainly in developing countries, much more regenerative and also resilient. And I think we need all these solutions, and I think what we need to do is also scale them. So I think, you know, what we've heard now from the solutions that Susan mentioned, but also that I mentioned, I think the big potential is really to scale them. How can we work together, be it cities, in collaboration with companies, so that we can really transform? And we had at one of our very initial marketplace that we organized, also a company called Hubtropolis. So it's much more an online platform, so that you can start planning your city much more regenerative. which I also think is important, so that we use the different tools that exist so that we can also combine solutions, be it fungi-based or other solutions, also other building materials, right? So it won't be, I think it won't be that it's only wood constructions that would be nature-based, but it's really a combination, and that we use really the best materials that can make also cities much more resilient, because I think if we talk about climate change, then clearly we also need to look into that. If I'm thinking of one of our finalists also this year, they are really doing also rainwater harvesting and making these kind of, I don't even know the expression in English, but cities like ein Schwamm. I don't know, Christian, maybe you know.
Sponge?
A sponge, yes. Sponge cities, so that they can really capture the water and really reuse it as well. So I think there are so many topics we can address in a city, and I think it's a good starting point. And that's also one of the topics we'd like to highlight as well at our session in Davos and at the Climate Hub.
Yeah, that's, I mean, infrastructure and also the materials which are being used for building and constructing our human habitats. This is extremely important. And I think over the last 200 years with the Industrial Revolution, also with our oil-based economy, we made a lot of mistakes. We are suffering from these mistakes right now. And, this image here and behind, it's constructed with AI, of course, but I wanted to find out how AI would picture such kind of city where humans, nature, and also technology would live in harmony. I mean, technology doesn't live, but so nature and humans are living organisms, and how to integrate these living organisms into a broader ecosystem. Cities have a lot of problems because of the pressure which our human consumerism, our human capitalism, and human activity basically puts on nature. And there is, of course, logistics, there's food, there's energy, mobility, and waste, of course. And fungal innovation has solutions for some of these things. I think even also in construction and bio-based materials, and then also waste and maybe food. So maybe you can also highlight that, and then Susanne, you could also look into how you are already building these ecosystems of innovators with universities, with startups, with researchers. Maybe we can elaborate a little bit how we can connect then these different cities, and how we can spread the knowledge and then accelerate this kind of transition. First of all, some examples, and then how to accelerate and connect, basically.
Let me take the cities first, and then let's
Yes.
see if we because it's really two things. But when it comes to cities, there's three things I want to mention and talk about. First, innovations. So suitable fungal innovations for cities are, you mentioned construction materials. We see building materials of fungi. We see insulation in buildings. We see furniture again, and this is very degradable, right? You can recycle them back. And also micro-remediation, so cleaning the soil in the city, in parks is often degraded, and you can micro-remediate and then also improve the air. So clean the air in cities by implementing more micro-remediation and fungi. Waste management, again, there, there's so much, for medicines and, chemicals in cosmetics and everything goes into the wastewater. And fungi you can use as a microfiltration, and also, again, eating the waste in the wastewater, which is incredible. So there's so many, and also, fungi is bioluminescent. You can actually use it to replace, lightning in the streets. It's incredible, right? So because they give out light, some fungi. So, but that's some of the innovations, and just to mention also that we are seeing super novel innovations as a EU project with fungal coating for buildings. So, painting. That is also cleaning the indoor air in buildings, so people can thrive better. And it can also, a last thing, self-healing materials. So not only building materials from fungi, but it can self-repair. If you mix in fungi in the construction brick, when it cracks, the fungi gets oxygen and humidity, and then it awakens and it starts to grow. So it self-repair. So there were some innovations, but two more considerations. One is cities are good. You have a high concentration of people, and you can have different hubs. Fungi, in many ways, are quite decentralized, and we see a lot of innovators are, they are using containers and having production, taking waste and upcycling to the materials locally. So cities can have a lot of different hubs where they take waste locally and produce the materials we need. So that's a good thing about cities, that makes this easier and can have more hubs for producing this. The third thing I just want to say is that for cities, also how we live, but rethinking how we build the world around us. We will increasingly living in living environments. With living materials, much more. I mentioned self-healing materials. We have surrounded ourselves by, cement, a concrete, dead material, but we came from nature, which is the living world. So increasingly, that's where the future is going. We will use and keep materials alive. For example, fungal materials that can also sense if we need to take the temperature down or take it up, etc. Just to say that that's also the future of cities, that nature is coming closer to us. It will be living around us to cooperate with us, basically. That I love to talk about the very frontier innovations, Christian. So
yes,
that was a sneak peek.
Yeah. So actually, maybe your award, your second round, is almost done. You will announce winners when exactly?
On Tuesday.
Next
Tuesday, 25th, on LinkedIn. First in their channel, so top 3 startups.
Will it be kind of a live broadcast, or how do you?
So we are announcing in all communication channels, and then so the top 3 startups of 187 startups from 59 countries.
Wow.
And next year we run for science entrepreneurs, because so much of this, as Barbara know, this game-changing innovations, many of them are also coming from science. So we need to help to commercialize this science out in the real world, so that when we have them as well, we'll do seminar, celebration. But Barbara is also in her run-up with the innovators. When are your winners announced?
We will announce them on the 22nd of January at the Nature Lunch in Davos. Yes,
I know that.
So we will do a big launch. It will be a lunch event at the Schatzalp. Yes, where we will announce them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
22nd. 22nd.
Yes, 22nd of January. Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, then
Yeah.
so the next kind of discussion topic is actually also the ecosystem and the alliance. So the idea to build a global alliance, yeah, it came, of course, also from the original idea, purpose-driven innovation, and the E stands for ecosystem, so that everything we do is done with a collaborative mindset, spirit, and culture. So where we connect people and where we try to see systemic solutions and bring people together, build bridges, and then also help for accelerated knowledge transfer and to connect sometimes people who work. It's sometimes really fascinating if you screen the whole global ecosystems. Sometimes you realize that there are people in totally unconnected geographies which are working on something very similar, and some are further and some are not so much advanced, or they have a different kind of um, approach. And if we combine these different approaches, we would probably advance it much faster. This is one thing that innovation itself can prosper from these connections and from the alliance. And the other thing is, of course, that every new innovation needs also the engine. So it's like I always compare it with a water mill. If you only have some drops dropping on this wheel, the wheel will not turn. But if you have drops and many drops are coming faster and then it starts turning and then it gains momentum, then the whole machine will work. And you can see that I always say that ecosystem is an exchange of information and energy, and that energy is in our modern world also can be money, so that we need actually money in order to accelerate these kind of transitions. And depending on where money is flowing, our future will be depending on this. So if money keeps on flowing into the old economies, the extractive economies, the non-replenishing and linear economies, then I don't think we have a good future ahead. But if this kind of alliance can also help to strengthen our voice as a collective, and that we build this from bottom up and build also this enthusiasm and fascination about what is possible with nature-based solutions and fungal innovation, for example, then I think we have a very positive pathway. So maybe maybe we turn it around. So Susanne,
Yeah.
if for an alliance or for this kind of global alliance, what what do you expect, and what is your uh, I mean how are you excited about this kind of alliance? Maybe you can give a little bit of a highlight to.
Yeah, I can say, first of all, I'm all about collaboration. And fungi, that's also what fungi shows us in nature. They're not always, but often 92% of plants depends on a symbiotic relationship with fungi. So collaboration. And an alliance, I also just want to say that money to the innovators, especially those that are doing new things, right? So from the invasive species to material, that's like super frontier. Not all types of capital can back that, right? So I just wanted to say funding to innovations, especially the bold trailblazers. But to your question, Christian, so there's so many things we can do, and as ecosystems, we're ecosystem builders. We also need to think bigger and come together and work together to amplify pace, and also look at where you playing a role, where I'm playing a role, where can we fill the dots, and how can we 1 + 1 is more than 2, right? So when Barbara and I and you, Christian, shout about the possibilities of nature, it has ripple effects. But concretely, and Barbara and I, we are exploring how we can work together, because this is that's how we make it more impactful. But one is, if innovations apply to get visibility on both platforms, that's one. So collaborating about, reaching these innovators. It can be access to corporates that are beginning to be more ready for nature-based, these very novel innovations. So, they can be showcased to innovations from, such a network. Now I'm specifically going to talk about us here as an example, and awards, but and of course, learning from each other on how to help these innovations. What are the best ways we can help them, and having common resources pools. Christian, I can see you're looking at your phone, but that's okay. No, that was a joke. But I think in Alliance, one thing that we've been talking about, Christian, is that ecosystems also need our backers to do the work, right? That's often forgotten. There's so many programs and funding for startups, but for ecosystem builders and nonprofit initiatives, not always. And there's so much work going into the resources needing to be a collective ecosystem builder. So another thing with GRIA is coming together as, initiatives and showing how we make a portfolio of initiatives that amplify nature-based solutions, so that we can unlock more systemic funding for different initiatives that all play a role in the bigger whole. But I'll leave it at that, and I'll give the word over to Barbara.
Sure. Thank you for that.
With the systemic funding, especially, that this is one of the crucial things. As soon as money comes in, then there's of course some kind of competition, because people also want money from the same sources. But there could be collaborative solutions for sharing about interesting funding sources, and an alliance could probably also help as bridging this. And then we could, if we build a larger pie and everybody gets a piece of this pie, then maybe the activity, the whole gets bigger, and we could all benefit more from that. Anyway, so maybe Barbara.
And if I can just add quickly before
Yes.
leaving it to Barbara, of course, there's a lot of learning from each other across, and also to seeing all the different initiatives in a system perspective. Where is it overlapping? Where are initiatives lacking? And also, what are the biggest systemic challenges, and how mapping that to our initiatives to see where additional effects are needed. And also to advance the discussions among us on also defining more regenerative pathways. How, where are we on the scale from, 0 to 100? How far have we come? So that we also have maybe collective roadmaps on how far we've progressed, if that makes sense. So a joint roadmap. Maybe something for 2026, Christian, for GRIA.
Yes.
Sure, happy to add that you've said a lot, but I think for me, we are all ecosystems, and I think we do need to work together in order to scale these solutions. I mean, we heard about those exciting solutions, but they are still very small scale solutions. So we need to collaborate and we need to have also blended finance because normal kind of VCs or investors might be hesitant. So we need to also bring kind of philanthropic capital together also with corporates or VCs in order to scale these solutions, because I think that's what we need. And I think that's where I see also the greatness about GRIA, right? Where we can say, okay, so how can we collaborate and how can we really bring the solutions then together with the right partners? And I think for me, it's really the saying that you all know, but if you go alone, you go fast, but if you go together, we go far, right? So I think that's really what I'm hoping also with GRIA, that together we can achieve the transition towards a regenerative economy. And I think this is really crucial. If we want to ensure that also our kids and grandkids really have a wonderful life, maybe it looks like your picture in the back, Christian, or that they can, go back and live in forests like the one I see here and do agroforestry. I think we have to rethink our future and really then also work together so that kind of the negative or the harmful subsidies are changed into positive subsidies so that we can really scale these innovative solutions that are so exciting. And I think this is what I see as the greatness of your initiative as well, Christian. And also, if we bring different ecosystems together, maybe then it grows even further, right? Like fungi. So that's what I see.
That would be amazing. So we have only 3 minutes left, but I think so. Our basically one of the big next steps will be Davos, and today we are Davos Worldwide, which is this initiative where people talk online, and we are doing this right now, and the video will be available afterwards, so we can also use it in order to post it to our networks. And every step is a step ahead and a step which advances our agenda. So let's think I said 10 years, like now it's 2025, so 2035, what would how would the ideal future look like if we had done almost everything right? And because we only have 2 minutes, maybe each of you have a short statement how you envision this kind of future, and then we close the session basically.
And I mean, maybe I can start.
Yes.
I think for me, it's really, yes, how can we scale these new initiatives, these new solutions, and really transform business so that business now sees, okay, yes, we need to be ready, because and I even say that we have 5 years still, and then afterwards we need to adapt, and then the changes will be even more massive. So I think if we can together, help scaling these solutions, then maybe this will be less costly than if we have to adapt.
Great. Susanne, 2035, how does
Yeah, I
feel?
echo that, and I hope that at that point we are really flipping towards more of the economy, so the system change, become far on the economy being more fuel by nature, bio-based economy, that we're much further ahead across sectors. That will take time, but that's where we're heading. So I hope we come really far. Because as McKinsey says, 60% of input for the global economy can come from nature. And also lastly, last seconds, mindset shift, how we view nature, right? Not as a resource, but respectfully interacting with and innovating with nature, right? Creating with nature, seeing it as our playing ground and So respecting nature, being in balance with nature, and being seeing it as our allies. I just posted a quote today: "Nature is not a resource; it's a co-founder." So I'll leave it at that.
Fantastic. Yeah. So this was Davos Worldwide, and we talked about GRIA, the Global Regenerative Innovation Alliance. We talked about the visions, possible visions, nature-based future, nature-based solutions, regenerative, resilient, and nature-positive or nature-based solutions, and that this is really a choice for the future, and we believe it's the only choice. And if we do everything right in 2035, we might live in cities like this or in the forest and do our agroforestry. We eat healthy, we live healthy, we are in harmony with nature, and we utilize technology instead of being enslaved by technology. Thank you very much, Susanne. Thank you, Barbara, and I'm looking forward to our next steps and also to Davos in the snow. So
Absolutely. Great.
thank you
Thank you very
and,
much.
have a nice
Bye,
evening.
Susanne.
Good
Bye,
night,
Christian.
and
Bye,
I will
Barbara.
start
See
my
you.
day.